In this video, we're going to help you change the game when it comes to understanding the people that you live with, ascribing them worth and value, and how honestly people are just viewed as human. You know, in some recent times, there's definitely been certain groups of people from different classes or socioeconomic statuses that get shoved to the margins of this society. And in this video, I want to help you flip that script and become an advocate for those on the margins of society. So, let's get this party started. Okay, so what do these three things have in common? The Wispa Gold is the most expensive chocolate bar in the entire world. And the Sagrada Familia is the most impressive piece of architecture in the world. And finally, check this out, you know this is the iPhone and its beautiful packaging. Well, what do these three things have in common? Here's what it is, ready? They were all considered ridiculous. Think about how ridiculous it was to wrap a chocolate bar in gold, or to create this once-of-a-lifetime architecture, or to create this sleek type of packaging. The point I'm trying to make is this: in all three of these instances, the creativity can feel scary. There's actually something that happened in Jesus' life that helps us make sense of all this. There's an event, a guy named Luke, who wrote about the things that have to do with what we're going to be talking about. He writes about something that happened to Jesus, and as you listen, I want you to see where the idea of worth and value, especially to those in the margins of society, showed up. One of the Pharisees asked Jesus to have dinner with him. So Jesus went to his home and he sat down to get ready to eat the meal. And then this certain immoral woman from the city that he was in heard that Jesus was going to be there. So she shows up and brings this beautiful alabaster jar filled with this expensive perfume. She knelt beside Jesus at his feet and weeping. And her tears on his feet, she began to wipe them with her hair. And then she kept kissing his feet and putting perfume on them. And then when the Pharisees who had invited Jesus saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him. She's a sinner. Now listen to how Jesus responded. I tell you that her sins, and they are many, they've been forgiven. So she has shown me much love. You see, this story has so much to teach us about what we do when something is worth it to us. You know, Luke tells us about this woman who pours perfume on Jesus' feet, and then she uses her hair to wipe them up. And that may sound strange to you and I, but in those times, ointments and perfumes, they were expensive. And so you saved them for special occasions. That's why when Judas saw her pour it out and use it on Jesus' feet, he actually complains about how wasteful it was, arguing that at the very least, they could have sold that perfume and then used it to help give money to the poor. He sounds like a typical churchgoer, doesn't he? No doubt this woman, she was used to being judged and outcasted and labeled for all of the negative things about her reputation. And so you can practically hear the disgust from the religious leaders when Luke writes that they were thinking, well, if Jesus knew what kind of woman she was, he wouldn't let her touch him. See, Jesus actually didn't see it that way, which is what's fascinating. Where they had discounted her, judged her, where they were disgusted by her. You see, she was willing to bet that Jesus, just maybe, might be different. And while the Pharisees may have felt uncomfortable, Jesus, he felt grateful. And he received it. He watched in awe. How could one act by this one woman be seen in two so totally different lights? It had everything to do with the perspectives of who was watching. You see, the religious leaders, they didn't see her as someone made in God's image. But Jesus, on the other hand, Jesus saw this woman as loved and as valued and as so much more than what people had said about her and what she had done or what she hadn't done. You see, the men saw her as worthless. And so they saw her and what she was doing and her act as wasteful. But Jesus saw her as worthy. And so he saw her act as worshipful. A party starter knows, because of everyone's worth, that creativity can be an act of worship. You see, Jesus saw her act differently because he saw her differently. He looked at her through a different set of eyes. Let's think about this in a kind of a funny way, okay? Have you ever noticed how these things are popular again? Right? It's a disco ball, right? Disco balls got their start back in the day of your and our grandparents, and now you can get them at Urban Outfitters. There's just something about them that actually helps make a party a party. Like, can we be honest? Like, there's a few things about a disco ball that sticks out. The first is they're expressive, meaning they're really hard to miss. They light a room and they fill that room pretty boldly. They're also, let's be honest, a little bit extra. And as trendy as they are, disco balls, let's just be honest, they're extra. All that light, that spinning effect, the reflection of the lights as it hits you right in the eye when you're going to try be chill or do a dance move, they're extra. The last thing, they're experimental. Think about this. The first disco ball, it had to be an experiment. Maybe it was like, hey, maybe we take this tiny mirror and glue it to a basketball and then shine a light on it. And if we spin it in the middle of a dance floor, weird idea, am I right? Here's a question, did it work? Because yeah, it did. Here we are today, still buying them, still talking about them, and using them. Here's what I'm saying. What if, when it came to how we celebrate others, what if we were a little more like this? Here are a few ways, just like a disco ball. Be expressive, be extra, and be experimental. You see, being a party starter is about reflecting who God is back out to the world. Look around. Like, from the people to nature to science to art, there is an ongoing party celebrating the dignity of all of humanity. When we change our perspective from others who we consider not worth it, like the Pharisees did, to shift it to they are worth it, our response towards them goes from feeling wasteful to actually being an act of worship towards God. You can change the game. Lean into your creativity, be a little extra, be a little experimental, make a difference.